do that upfront work to see if that podcast guest is going to be able to create a quality conversation with you that will help your audience grow in their own way. So whether that's maybe they need social media help and you find a social media manager that is going to bring quality content to your podcast. Places like that where you have these experts coming in and writing guest content, those are going to be good places where you can search and find people. They're already doing guest posts and guest content, so why wouldn't they want to be on your show? Welcome to another episode of Listeners to Leads, where I'm helping podcasters launch and maintain a lead-generating show. I'm your host, Alicia Galati, the CEO and head podcast strategist behind Galati Media, a full-service podcast management company. On this show, you'll hear my guests and I discuss everything it takes to launch a successful podcast and keep it running. If you're ready to get leads, land speaking gigs, and create deeper connections with your audience through your podcast, then this is the show for you. Today's episode, we are talking about finding quality podcast guests. Now, there is a reason that I am not calling this episode Finding Guests That Will Grow Your Audience. Those are interchangeable in a way, and I want to make sure that we're clarifying that we are finding quality guests that your audience is going to resonate with, which will then in turn grow your audience. I know a lot of the time as podcasters, we focus really heavily on growing the audience, but I want to kind of flip it around today and talk more about getting quality guests. If we are going to take our listeners on a journey with us into paying customers and leads, then we need to make sure that the content that we're giving them is quality. It doesn't matter if you have a celebrity on your show or if you have this great person. If they're not going to promote your show and they're not going to give value to your audience, then what is the point? You are wasting their time, you're wasting your time. Unless your goal is to make a connection with that specific person, then you have to think about what is your audience going to get out of this? Where is the quality here? I also want to look forward as you're listening to this episode. Make sure that you go to the blog post that is going to be associated with this episode. You'll find it at aliciagalati.com because we're going to have lots of links. And if you're driving or you're doing something else, you're cooking dinner, whatever, while you're listening to this podcast, then you're going to want to be able to go back and check out some of these links that I am going to have for you. So definitely go to the show notes. It'll take you directly to my website and you'll be able to get that. Also, episode 20 of this podcast, we have Lisa Zaratni on, and she is absolutely wonderful human being. Love her to pieces. She's going to be talking about how to plan a podcast interview. That goes so well with this episode. So definitely go check that out when it comes out. It'll be out about a month from when this airs. And we're going to go through her process of selecting podcast guests, how she does that, how she plans the content that is going to be going live for her show, how she prepares herself and the guest for the interview, and then staying on track during that interview process. All of it is absolute gold. She is a fantastic interviewer. Everything that she does it with purpose. Definitely go check that episode out after you've listened to this one. Finding quality guests. First things first, before we even talk about where to find these guests, because that's going to be the bulk of this episode. But before we get to that, you need to get clear on what your goals are for your podcast. If you want to grow your audience and turn your listeners into leads and get clients using your podcast, then the number one thing you need to do is get clear on your goals. What is that goal? Are you looking to get new clients by interviewing them? So interviewing potential clients? Or are you looking to bring value to a cold audience or to a warm audience that then is going to allow them to kind of take that journey through your funnel to then buy your product or your service or your group program or your coaching or whatever? You have to get clear on those goals. If you're not clear on those goals, you're going to confuse your listeners And you're not going to be able to achieve one thing. When we end up separating our mental capacity and our space to try to hit too many goals, we don't end up hitting any of them. We end up falling short on all of them. That's not what I want for you. I want you to be able to hit those goals, make those cash money dollars, and turn your listeners into leads. First things first, get clear on that goal. Now that you have your goal and you know these are the kind of people that I'm going to interview. So if you are wanting to interview potential clients, focus on that. If you want to interview people who are going to give value to your audience, focus on that. Now that we found our focus, where are you going to find these people? We're going to go through a list. It's going to be pretty intensive. But like I said at the beginning, go back to the show notes. You'll be able to get some links there, as well as go to my website, and we will have all of the links and little descriptions and stuff underneath each of these. First place, friends. If you're in business, you probably have business friends. You are not doing this alone. You have maybe a biz bestie. You're in a co-working space or something. That is going to be the first place. Find those friends and talk to them. Ask them if they know anyone who is doing whatever it is that you're looking for. I find that that is one of the easiest ways to create that connection and to get that immediate rapport with the potential guest, because you guys have a mutual friend in common. Go ask your friends. That's the first thing. That'll be the easiest way for you to get guests right off the bat. Next, now this one it's a little funky. I actually didn't think about it until we were having trouble finding guests for one of our clients. And they were looking specifically for guests that are in the academic space. That was like, whoa, okay, something new and different. How am I going to find these people? I told our team to go look on Amazon and look for people who have authored books on this topic that we were trying to get guests for. And I was like, oh, this is fantastic. I don't know how I thought about this, but I love this idea so much because there are so many authors on Amazon, people self-publishing. It takes practically nothing to self-publish a book. I have a friend who did it. She said it was very easy to do. So anyone who wants to be an expert in a field, they'll publish a book about it. Go look on Amazon, find that author that you're looking for, someone who has written a book or has a book coming out. That's going to be even better because they're going to be in promo mode where they're like, I need to get on the podcast. I need to get this in front of more people. And they're going to want to be on your show because they have that book coming out. If they've already authored the book, great too. Let's just get them on your show. Within Amazon, you have the ability to look and see their author page. You can find their website, find contact information, and go from there. So I love that idea. So looking for authors of books that are on your topic on Amazon. The next thing you could do to find podcast guests that are going to be quality for your audience is to search on your podcast app. What are the top podcasts in your category? And then keep looking for ones that are similar. So maybe this one's similar. Okay, let's check and see the ones that are similar to that one. Make sure that they have some type of information there where you can connect with them further, whether that's through their website or an email, or maybe they have their social media information there. That's going to be a pretty easy way to look on your podcast app and then be able to connect with that person and get a conversation going with them. All right, the next way that you can find podcast guests is by searching. You can search these 3 places that will be really good for you. Is going to be blog posts, Pinterest, and YouTube. Who is showing up as an expert in these spaces? What are they talking about? What are they doing? What kind of content are they creating? And can you use that for your audience? That will also be able to allow you to do that upfront work to see if that podcast guest is going to be able to create a quality conversation with you that will help your audience grow in their own way. So whether that's maybe they need social media help and you find a social media manager that is going to bring quality content to your podcast. blog posts, Pinterest, and YouTube. Search those places. There are obviously others. I'm thinking Medium, Thrive Global, places like that where you have these experts coming in and writing guest content. Those are going to be good places where you can search and find people that are going to want to promote their spots and want to promote their content. They're already doing guest posts and guest content, so why wouldn't they want to be on your show? All right, next place to find quality podcast guests is to check out some podcasting Facebook groups. There are so many, so many podcast groups that you can check out. I'm only going to name 3. The Podcasters Society, that is our podcast community. It has been on hold for a minute, but we are starting that back up. I'm so excited. We're going to be creating new content for you guys over there. You're going to get lots of freebies. So definitely go check out the Podcasters Society if you are looking for podcast guests. You can always go in our group and let us know that you're looking for a guest or you want to be a guest. I'm always open to those kinds of posts. I want you to grow your podcast. So go in there, post away. I can't wait to meet you. Tell me you found me here. So that is one of the places. The second Facebook group is the Podcast Guest Collaborative Community. They are a free Facebook group as well that you can create posts in there. It's big. It's like 20 to 25,000 people in there. So you might get lost in the sauce there, but it's still a really great community. I enjoy going in there and skimming through what people are doing. Also, they have a paid side to their community as well. I think it's like $15 a month. I will have some websites later. That's one of them that you can also check out to get your name out there, but it is a paid option. Their free Facebook group works fine as well if you're not looking for those paid options. The third Facebook group is Podmatch. They're kind of flipped from the Podcast Guest Collaborative in that Podmatch is they have a free version and a paid version of their matchmaking for podcasters, but they also have a Facebook group attached. So if you want to check out their Facebook group, I have not been in there. I try to stay out of Facebook groups as much as possible unless it's serving me in the moment. I haven't checked it out, but I've heard really great things about them, and they are endorsed by my good friends from Podit who recently connected with them and have since closed their business. So if they endorse it, then I definitely would second that endorsement. All right, so those are your 3 Facebook groups that you can check out. Next, we're going to look at searching social media profiles. Obviously, you know the social media places you can look: Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Clubhouse, TikTok, places like that. Search for that. You're going to want to search either hashtags or you're going to search their profiles. So looking for people who have specific things in their profiles that's going to help you get quality podcast guests. So little side note, I know a lot of you may struggle with connecting with people that are cold audiences on social media. How do you get these people to DM you back without being spammy and gross? Comment on their stories, check out their website, make a deep connection with them. And no, I don't mean find out that, their childhood trauma. That's not at all what I'm saying. Talk about your dogs if you both have dogs. Talk about your favorite food if it's similar to what they like, or maybe just find something that is going to connect you with them more than just a, hey, I want you to be on my podcast. No, we don't want to do that. Check out their website so that you can have some type of back information on them. Have a topic ready as well. I know this can be a bit iffy and dicey for some people. They're like, whoa, I don't want to have a topic ready. I don't know what to do. Having a topic ready for that person shows that you did your research and you are going to them with your audience in mind. You care about your audience and you know exactly what kind of conversation you want to have. The next way to find quality podcast guests is to ask other podcast guests. So keep connected with them on social media. Make sure that you're interacting with them and ask them if they have anyone that does a specific thing. Don't just say, hey, do you know anyone who wants to be a guest on podcasts? You want to go in, and that's where Lisa's episode is going to come in so handy for you. Once you've planned out your content, you know exactly what your goals are, you're going to be able to then say, I need this person who does this exact thing. Makes it super easy to find that person. And also when you're asking friends, you're asking other podcast guests that have already been on your show, you know exactly what you're asking for. You don't have to try to figure it out, or they don't have to figure it out. You make it very easy for them. So asking other podcast guests is a great way. Here are some websites that cost money. They are not expensive at all, but they're options. I personally do not use any paid communities except the Podcast Guest Collaborative community. That is the only one that I use, and I'm actually probably not going to be on there for much longer because I feel like I've gotten everything I need from them. I don't like memberships. I don't like being part of memberships. It's just not my thing. So the first one is matchmaker.fm. Again, we will have all of these links in the show notes as well as on my website, so you can always go there and check that out. Matchmaker.fm, podcast guests, interview guest directory, Podmatch, and podcast guest collaborative community. Those are 5 spots that you can go to check out and find guests for your podcast. Most of these have a free version or a light version where it is free, but you don't get as many bonuses or benefits from that free account. So if you did want to do a paid version, that's fine as well. Just make sure that you make the most of it. Maybe that's why I don't like membership so much, is because I get so excited and I'm in there and I'm like, oh, this is great. And I'm in there and I'm hanging out. And then I'm not in there anymore. And I end up just throwing my money at people. And I don't want to throw my money at people. I want to make sure that I'm putting my money where it needs to go. Anyway. All right. Next place to find quality podcast guests. This one might sound counterintuitive, but stay with me. Be a guest on other podcasts. When you are a guest on other podcasts, you create a deeper connection with that host. It's going to be a lot easier to pitch that host to be on your show once you've had that connection. But also, now you have a bigger group of people that you can ask, just like we said before, asking people who have been on your show. You could always ask people that you have been on their show. Check out who's hanging out check out what kind of guests they've had on. You can ask for a connection with that specific person. And you already have that rapport because you were a guest on their show. So it's a little roundabout, but it's still a great strategy. Next place to find quality podcast guests is mastermind communities. This is very similar to any memberships that you're involved in as a business owner, any spaces that you're kind of holding with other people. Communities, any type of community, memberships, masterminds, whatever. Paid, free, doesn't matter. I want you to go in there and make the most of it. And I feel like this is what it all comes back to. When you are looking for a podcast guest, you want to make a connection with that person. That's going to show up better on the podcast audio. It's going to show up better for you as a person because you're creating a connection with someone else, which, as humans, we love connection. And then you're also going to be able to make it a lot easier for them to promote it because they're excited about the show. They're excited about their new connection with you. And it doesn't feel like, oh yeah, this person wanted me on their show. Create connections. So in your masterminds, in your paid memberships, your free memberships, whatever it is, go in those spaces. And that is going to be a great place for you to find quality guests as well. Last one, where to find quality podcast guests. Virtual and in-person conferences and summits. This is gold. I'm telling you, there is nothing better than being able to be a part of a virtual conference or summit or even speak at one. This kind of goes back to being a guest on other people's podcasts. A woman who runs a summit has asked me twice this year to be part of her summit, and I have been for both times. So now I have a deeper connection with this woman who I've known We've been in the same circles for going on 5-6 years, but I've never had like a one-on-one conversation with her. But now, because I've had 2 virtual guestings for her and I have given to her community, it would be very easy for me to go in and say, hey, I'd love to have you on my podcast. Is this something that you'd be open to doing? I wouldn't have to worry about my pitch. I wouldn't have to worry about anything really, except this is what I'd love for you to talk about. Let's schedule some time, because I already have made that connection with her. So conferences are a great space to get to know new people. Virtual, if that's your jam. In person, if that's your jam, whatever. Either way, creating connections with new people is going to help you find quality guests. Remember that finding quality guests is not difficult. This is not hard. All of these options that I'm giving you, you can literally try 3 of these and get guests and book yourself out for the next 3 months. It is possible. You just have to put in the effort, plan it out, and know exactly what you're doing. Make sure you check out the show notes for any of these points that you missed, any of these places where you can find quality podcast guests, or you can go to aliciagalati.com and check out the blog post there. We will have all the information and all of the links there as well. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Listeners to Leads. If you found something in this episode valuable, I would really appreciate it if you shared it with a friend who you know would also get value from it. Want to send me a message? My favorite place to hang out is Instagram. You can find me at alicia.galati. Let me know what your favorite takeaway was from the episode. And don't forget, turning those listeners into leads is actually easy.